What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Comments from the Peanut Gallery podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz. I'm here with my man, Jorge Kanakoqui. How you doing, brother?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, bro. Thank you so much for taking the time. You know, I've had the privilege, really, of getting to commentate a couple of your fights and also done some photography cage side for your fights. That was prior to you coming over to Factory X.
Right.
Now we get to be in the flow of things together awesome. With you on the X, putting that X up. How does that feel, man?
Feels great, man. It's been a journey, a long journey. I'm excited to be at a quote-unquote real gym. This is a real gym to me. Kind of overstayed these last couple fights, but I'm excited. Here we are, so excited nonetheless. Every day just get beat up, so I'm excited to go beat somebody up.
Definitely, brother. Where can people follow you?
Team Kanakoqui. That's going to be TEAMKANAKOQUI. That's my last name.
Thank you for spelling it out there for everybody. That might have been a little bit hard just to get from the audience.
It's a little tricky there. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Nice. Now, I got to ask you, what's your background, man? Like, is it Hawaiian?
I'm actually half Japanese.
Okay.
My dad's Japanese, and my mom's from Mexico.
Okay.
I'm actually born in Mexico.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I get to see two very cool, different cultures. Right now, I'm in the States with my mom. I'm not living with her, but she's here, and then my dad's back in Mexico.
Nice. Okay.
So, but yeah, it's cool, man. Growing up, just seeing his, culture and a lot of seafood, all that good stuff.
Can't beat that, bro. You can't. I mean, I'm a seafood lover.
Right.
What's your favorite? What's your go-to?
I like oysters, man.
Okay.
Took me a while to get, into them, but once you add the right sauces in there, it's good stuff.
I guess for someone who has grown up in a landlocked state in Colorado and hasn't really, I guess, outside of a couple of vacations, got to experience the real deal. What's your go-to? How do you prepare your oysters?
So we have what I would say like homemade sauces. So I actually don't know where they come from. My dad, he's always just had them for us. I've never even made them myself, never really even questioned it, actually. But kind of like what you would think of like Worcestershire sauce.
Gotcha.
Like that kind of soy sauce, that kind of stuff. And then we do a lot of tapatio, lime. We mix the Mexican side in there.
I mean, when you have that great a spice to go along, or that spice flavor profile, if you will.
Right.
Like I grew up down in Pueblo, so I mean, like having a lot of that, just like from chili lime to like basically like the God, it's escaping my head right now, but all the stuff like with mango nada,
tahini, all that.
Yep, exactly. Like all that, all along. So
right. So you've seen it, you've tried it.
I'm a little bit experienced with that side of the spices. Don't know so much about the oysters and the seafood, but so moving along from that. You have a fight coming up.
Yes, sir.
Tell us the details.
So March 27th in Wyoming for SCL. I don't know much about my opponent, Cesar Noel. Right now I'm 4-1 MMA, amateur. 7-2. I have some Muay Thai fights. So I'm excited. I've been learning and growing, and I'm excited, man.
Definitely. Now, what's it like for you as far as the a lot of the matchup dynamics, because you're a very tall and long 25er.
Right. I consider myself a striker, so being tall helps a lot. But now, like being here, I've realized I need to evolve. Basically every round I get taken down. So that's something I've been trying to really emphasize and work. My weakness per se. But then that helps when you're on the ground, being long in jiu-jitsu helps. So kind of putting it all together, seeing what we can do, and just going from there,
Nice. Now, you mentioned having a Muay Thai background. Was that what you first started with, or did you start, just getting into the fight game as a whole and did some specialist stuff in the process?
So growing up, my dad actually, with his Japanese culture, they were into Taekwondo. It was like their version, but here in the States it's Taekwondo. So I was in that early on in life. I got my black belt, then got out. It wasn't something that I wanted to do per se, like just did it for him, Yeah. Got out, and then I wrestled in middle school, and then high school came along, and I was 70 pounds in the 103 division. So I was just getting like ragdolled, and I was just like, like this,
tiny.
yeah. I was just like, this sucks. So I turned to Muay Thai. So that's when I started striking. I fell in love with it, and my ultimate goal was to fight MMA. But I knew there was just steps to go along the way. I didn't want to just jump in a cage, and then who knows what would happen, right? I wanted to be self-confident before I stepped in. So I started with Muay Thai. I had the little bit of wrestling. I had the Taekwondo, the strikes, to mesh together. Did that for a while. I went 4-0, all finishes, Muay Thai, and I was just like, let's do it. Got into some jiu-jitsu tournaments. For a year straight, I didn't even place. It was just like, this is crazy. Fell in love with the jiu-jitsu world and realized there's just so much more once you're in. So I did that for a year, and then after I started winning some matches, I was like, let's go fight MMA, and then, here we are, 4-1 right now. My goal right now is to go pro here in the next whatever months, years, whatever. COVID kind of put a hit to that, but I'm not rushing it, especially being here.
Yeah, COVID, I think, put a damper on a lot of people's, plans or progress in taking that next step, especially with us being Colorado-based and Colorado taking such a firm line in the sand sort of stance,
right.
As far as not opening up or having shows. And that affected, that just like it affected you with opportunities for fighting,
right.
Just as I mentioned, like with commentary and all that, well, if you don't have shows to fight in, I don't have shows to call action for, to go shoot photography or do any of that for. So it really, our entire MMA community was hit hard.
Just took a pause, right?
Yep, exactly.
And it was a weird timing for me because I had just finished the King of Sparta, which I had no business being in because I had no team, I had nothing. It was just kind of signed up for it. How coach says, you fall to the level you're training, So I ended up losing to Miguel Perez, who won. I was really looking forward to the kickboxing, the MMA rounds, but we didn't even get to that. But the transition of COVID, it was just like I had lost that fight, and then my team, quote unquote, got kicked out of Zingano's. So then I had no team. I talked to Oscar, who was a teammate of mine, and he invited me over, and here we are. The rest is history.
I mean, that's a whirlwind of a roller coaster ride. I mean, I'm sure there was some emotionally or mentally trying times through that transition too.
Yeah, man, it was. You question a lot when you don't have a team to fall back with or whatever, So I like this culture we have going on here. It's you get held accountable. There's no slacking. There's no, it's what I need. So. Loving it.
Definitely, the whole own your game is a real thing.
Right. And then we're in the sport where you can't cheat anything. You're cheating yourself if you are, right? Once you're in there, it's 1 versus 1, and you got to be ready for that. So,
well, I feel like just as you mentioned right there, this is a sport where if you cut some corners at some point, if you skipped or you maybe not necessarily skipped but neglected some stuff, or just didn't continue to always evolve and push the envelope on your game, that's eventually going to show.
Yeah.
That's eventually going to come to light, and that's it really and truly then guys get a read on you, or the book gets written sort of thing.
Right.
So yeah, that's a crazy way to put it.
Yeah, and this game's ever changing, man, like with the calf kicks and the, this and then that. So you just got to roll with the punches.
I feel like we've had a few different things that through the last few years, as far as attacks and whatnot, that have really kind of, I don't want to say revolutionized, because these things were around all the way, they've been around for a long time. And the two big things that I'm going to say, I mean, it's gonna set the light bulb off for you, but leg locks and calf kicks, just as you mentioned.
Yes.
It's not like these two things are brand new.
Right.
But the prevalence, I guess, has grown a lot. Because if you look all the way back, I mean, Mike Sesnilevich had a heel hook in the UFC way back in the day.
Right.
You had guys like Ken Shamrock in the early years that were pulling off, ankle locks, toe holds, all sorts of things of that nature.
Right, yeah.
You've had prolific kickers of the past, your Pedro Hizos of the world, those guys who would beat your leg all the way from your hip all the way to your ankle.
Jose Aldo, right?
Jose Aldo's of the world, those sorts of guys. But it's just became a lot more prevalent in how many guys are throwing these calf kicks, Do you think that that's just because the sport has grown as a whole and there's that many more people doing it and they look to see what was successful for other guys? Or
I think that's
or
what
do
it
you
is. I think
is?
people are seeing it happen a lot, so they're just like, hey, let me try it. And then they're kind of seeing it works. And then I think it's like a trying thing, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's weird. It's like I'm not used to getting kicked 20 times, you know what I mean?
Right.
Before the round's even over. But yeah, you just got to adjust to it. Like you said, the leg locks, that's something I never, especially young in the jiu-jitsu realm, leg locks you don't really do, right? So now that I'm getting caught left, right, so it's just like, yeah, I got to work that too. Yeah, man, like you said, it's just doing what is being thrown at you. So
exactly, especially when when there's guys that not even like fighters or guys who compete in full contact sort of situations, but you have your jiu-jitsu wizards out there like our guy James here, like James Hardy, like that is a leg locking wizard. Like that is that's a not as famous version of like your Ryan Hall out there.
Right.
Like this guy's going to you know it too. You know it when you go into a round. You know that hey, if there is a leg there, he is going to attack it.
Get it.
And there's a good chance he's going to get it.
Right. The thing with MMA, what I love is you get to punch him. So, a couple times here, I mean, these are your teammates, but you think about it, you're just like, I could just maybe punch my way out of here. So, but I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to put it all together and see what we've learned from day to day. And I'm excited, man. Are you gonna be there? Of course. Okay, cool. I had to ask.
I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be representing for the team there. Hopefully we get that media badge taken care of on this one.
Yes, we need him here, or need him there.
Yep. Now I want to ask you this: if for those who haven't seen you fight yet, if you had to compare yourself to someone out there stylistically or just kind of the way that you flow and look, is there someone that you can put a comparison to?
Sure. And it's not something I've said. It's just people have told me, like Yair Rodriguez, kind of like the long, kicky style, something like that. I would say, I don't know, like if I had to put a name, maybe, I don't know. I guess I'm just like striker that wants to just scrap, and then if we have to wrestle, we'll wrestle. But it's just not something I want to do. Gotcha. But that's kind of part of growing, Mm-hmm. That's where I'm at right now, is pushing myself there.
So what you're saying is you're not opposed to a good old barn burner brawl every now and then.
No, and that's what I love. I think what makes me do that is the reactions, and at the end of the day, we're entertainers. I love having your family, your teammates just screaming and in awe, For like example, I had a fight in New Mexico and we could do knees and elbows. My thing right now is, I'm not saying I'm being held back, but knees and elbows is what I love to do. So I actually have a 12-second knockout, because I got a chance to throw knees and elbows. So whatever fighter, I don't know, he can think of who throws a bunch of knees and elbows, that's who I would compare myself to.
That's fair. And now that brings up an interesting point there. How much, because that's a thing that Alex Perez and I were actually talking about this the other day, and that's something that as a whole I feel like is holding the sport's growth back, in that we don't have a unified rule set from state to state, especially as it comes to the amateur ranks and guys coming up.
Right.
Because I feel like there could be a situation of you have a guy who, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody or not calling anybody out specific, but this is a very real element that, say you do your entire amateur career through like Colorado,
right,
or through a Colorado-based promotion that's putting on shows in Wyoming, adopting the Colorado Commission rules.
Right.
And you never have the opportunity to throw those knees or elbows in a contest, and then you go to make your pro debut, and then suddenly that's a reality.
Yeah,
that's
and
a factor.
It's
that's
a scary
something
reality
that you never, with live speed, had to account for, and now you're doing it where your record counts for real.
Right.
Do you think that that's something that is to the detriment of the fighters? They say it's fighter safety, but do you think that ultimately for those that are trying to really seriously pursue this, do you think it is a detriment?
Yes, definitely. And I think at the end of the day, we're fighting. So if I want to throw an elbow at you, I should, right? And same with you. If you want to throw a knee to my head, standing, of course, you should. That's right. That's kind of, for me, it worked out because New Mexico lets you. I don't know what other states lets you, but that was part of our, the first couple fights, we went straight over there to get the real deal, and it's different. It's much different.
And at least in Colorado, you don't have to wear additional protective gear.
Right, I would hate that.
In some states, as an amateur, you still have to wear, in some of them, it's bare minimum, you're wearing shin guards.
Right.
In some, you're wearing shin guards and headgear as an amateur.
Which is weird to me. I don't understand that.
I don't get that either. But then you get crazy states like Nebraska, Nebraska through a Midwest Championship fighting, they do what's called street fights.
Well, I have no idea.
The concept of their street fights is they take a couple of guys who have never trained before, with about a week in advance of notice, who are thinking that, hey, maybe I want to get into fighting. Maybe this is something that I do want to try to do. So it's basically we're going to feed you from a fire hose and see how much you really like this. Before coaches go put time into you and all that sort of thing. Let's put you in there to see if you actually, in the water yeah, exactly. We're going to throw you in the deep end with a bunch of sharks, and we're going to see if you can swim.
Wow, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, that's it makes for from the just bleed like blood and guts fan perspective, it's awesome.
Right. If that's
like if you're just there for the pure carnage, the pure violence of it, like it is awesome to sit there and see. Yeah. I've been out there for it.
Check these out.
We've had a few guys. Austin Jones headlined one of their cards a couple of years ago. That was if you heard the story.
They have somebody who's trained and fought versus
no, two guys who have never trained before.
Okay.
But this was actually the same card that you've heard Dustin Jacoby's story about how his opponent fell down the stairs a few minutes, right before they were about to walk.
Yes,
this was at that show,
at
that promotion.
Wow.
Yeah. I actually, crazy enough, I have a picture of Dustin's face, as he fell, and Dustin's like,
"Oh no way, you caught that?"
Yes.
He's just like, "Dude, you serious?"
Yes, are you kidding me? Yeah, but I digress from that. But yeah, there's some crazy differences in rules state to state.
Right.
And even as you look in the professional side, there's some states that will go with the new unified set, or they'll go by the old rules set.
Right.
So
I think we should all come together.
It's confusing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then you're always getting different judges too who are looking at different things.
Well, I could go forever. Yeah.
It's just so we need to get on one, I think. But yeah, it's like you said, states have different laws anyways, right? So that'd be hard to...
It would be, and I feel like it just, until there's a much larger push from the top to unify all of these things, I just don't know where it's going to gain ground on that side of things. Yeah. And especially with we can talk all day, all that we want about improving officiating, improving judging, all that. Right. I actually got some great primary information from Frank Trigg. He was on my radio show, which, by the way, y'all can check out the MMA plug presented by DenverSportsBetting.com and Mile High Sports Radio 98.1 FM, as well as MileHighSports.com Wednesday evenings. But with Frank Trigg, who is, he's a former UFC fighter who's fought all around the world, basically every major organization, and is now a referee.
Right.
So with Frank, he said that really and truly, he said, I do it because I love it, and a lot of these guys do it because they love it. You don't get paid much at all to do it, and then it's a lot of, with the actual infrastructure of the commissions, that's all government-based.
Right. They have no MMA love, per se.
So, you can get some situations where someone gets, they shift over or they get moved laterally within, and this is I don't know this directly. This is coming from those that are in the know. Right. So you could have someone who was working in another like government gaming department or something to that effect, like you know, say like, because the lottery is built in with that, and I know that there's a specific example of a commissioner who was a long timer with the lottery department, but then there was a lateral position that was open, whether it was, you know, like difference in a bump in pay, whatever like that, but still equitable government level jobs,
right,
that then got pushed up, but never had combat experience, but was involved in the lottery for a long time.
Gotcha.
So they were within that same gaming department within the government umbrella, or however all that stuff works.
Right.
Which I don't even like that. That's so bureaucratic with all of that. It's crazy.
Right.
But that's kind of, sometimes you could have someone who has zero experience within the combat sports world, and that's what we're faced to deal with.
Right.
You know, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's, I mean, some of those things you don't understand, but what can you do, right?
Have you seen have you seen any of the fights out in Kansas, like the LFA fights of recent?
The recent ones, yeah.
What do you feel about the open scoring?
I haven't put too much thought into it. I have seen both sides of it. I personally wouldn't like it, but I don't know. I see the other side as well. Like, I don't know. That'd be something I need to like sit down and think about, and I haven't. I've been reading different opinions. I don't know. Especially as a fighter, I don't know how I feel if so and so is winning 2 rounds, so the next round they're just gonna stall, you know, or whatever. Right. I like the element of surprise, but I don't know.
That's all the arguments, you know, against it. There's someone could potentially, you know, like stall or get on their bike and coast around.
Right.
I think that's kind of...
That's what comes to mind. I don't know.
That's one of the biggest arguments against it. I believe it was, though, in 2020 in the state of Kansas, of their reported fights, I believe 70% of the guys who were ahead through 2 continued on to win that fight.
Oh, okay.
So
there's some truth to that.
There's some, well, and maybe not some to that, but you know, they didn't skate off, but they decided that, okay, I still needed to finish, or I still needed to continue to, you know, to work to win.
Right, almost like a confidence boost.
I don't know. Could be a confidence boost. But it's also tough in that fighting is different from every other sport, in that, say, you know, you've got Broncos on right there, so I'll use an NFL example. You're up by, you know, 2 possessions going into the last half of the fourth quarter. Right. You can start to do things like a 4-minute offense to just run the clock out and play the clock management game.
Right. It'd be kind of like that.
There's not. But you don't have. But there's no way in something like football or, you know, baseball, hockey, basketball, to where you can flip the outcome within 1 second.
That's true.
Whereas in fighting, you leave yourself. And I'll use Frank Trigg as another example. And this is what he talked about it. He said, "I was up 2 rounds against Robbie Lawler toward the end of my career." Mm-hmm. He said, I was up well on the cards, and I decided to, at one moment in the 3rd round, just kind of have a rest moment for a second. Right. The next thing I know, I was waking up counting the lights in the arena.
Oh God, yeah. Okay.
So, you know, he said that's the ultimate equalizer, is that in fighting,
I didn't think about that.
It can change just like that.
Right.
So
if this guy knows he's losing, he's gonna wanna.
He's gonna be coming out gunning for blood.
Right.
So I don't know.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I'm torn on it.
What about you as as you watching all these athletes day in, day out? What do you think? Would that change there?
I think it's tough. You know, I think that I'll say this, and I've maintained this position for a long time, that I don't know what is the right move, but I will offer that we won't know what is the right modality to score until we've tried some new things.
That's true.
Until we put some stuff out there, you know, do it in a small market, do it in some place like Kansas, to where we can see what the result is. We can maybe eliminate any sort of outliers within the process, or figure out what are our variables. At the end of the day, it all comes down to, it's basically just like a giant math equation. What are our variables in here? Mm-hmm. What are some things that, okay, we need to address this variable versus this is something that's a constant. We can't affect this. This is a non-controllable variable. Right. Whereas there could be some controllables. I also like that you can, with open scoring, potentially identify some outliers within the judging process.
Yeah,
in general, I feel like there should be a lot more review to the judging process, to where you should be able to, just like in that fight with Aljo the other night, one judge had him winning the fight on the scorecards up to that point. I think that there should have to be some sort of explaining factor as to why you were, why you had your score there.
Right.
What was it that you saw that he had a specific amount? You thought that he had the advantage with significant strikes. You thought that his control time, his whatever was superior. I feel like you should have to be accountable for your decision and your scoring. What was it that got to
made you? Yeah, I agree. There's no accountability with them. I think it's whatever they're feeling that day. You know what I mean?
I mean, I judge sparring for you guys every week. To me, like, I have a criteria that I go off of. Who you can call me out of my criteria all that you want, but I can speak to my decision every single time.
That's what you base it off of.
I'm keeping account of, okay, how many takedowns, and I don't like to take that's but this is another part where it's so subjective, is what is a takedown?
Right.
Is a takedown where I take you down right away, your butt touches the canvas, and you're able to get right back up and scrape yourself off the cage? Does that count as a takedown, or does a takedown basically like within jiu-jitsu scoring, where you have to secure that position for 3 seconds and move on before you get that takedown point?
Right.
That's where I feel like there's a large level of subjectivity.
Right, just goes between whoever's opinion's different, right?
Exactly. So, I mean, there's some guys who they'll pick you up and they'll dump you, how many times, but did you do something with it?
Right.
Or then, it kills me with the judging process personally, and I'm sure it probably does for you as a striker, that you could be going through and you could be beating a guy for 4 minutes and 30 seconds on the feet. Or in your case, in an elimination bout, you could be winning for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That guy shoots a takedown in the last 15, 20 seconds, and somehow they stole the round on the card.
Right.
Now, if they take down, and if it's like an Izzy and Jan the other night, where he takes him down and then passes immediately, and then is able to mount a strong striking attack.
Right. Yeah, he's beating.
That's different.
Yeah.
But if you just get the takedown and you're sitting in someone's guard, or you're only at half guard, or you didn't really threaten something following that, I don't believe that should steal you around.
I agree with that, especially as the guy wanting to be not there.
Right.
I agree. Yeah. So it's weird all across the board with who. Some people, as soon as they take them down, the round's over. It's theirs. Yeah. Which is I don't agree with, but
it's insane, bro.
So
it blows my mind the way that some of that, just the way that it's allowed to, or that it's just continued to go on.
Right.
And I get it. Reform to the judging process probably isn't the first thing on the priority while putting cards on through the pandemic.
Yeah.
But that's something that within the next, call it 5 years, I would love to see a massive reform effort across the board.
Change, yeah. You don't know until you try, so.
Exactly. Whether that's adding more judges, what's to say that, you can't, in one of those different markets, let Kansas keep the open scoring, and we'll keep on gathering more data and see how that goes. But then say a New Mexico or a Utah or someone like that. Well, then let's see what it looks like when we have, let's say, 5 judges.
Right.
Because sometimes what if you have just one person who is clueless, or you have a guy who was a boxing judge that comes over but doesn't understand the ground game.
Right. You gotta
or vice versa. You could have someone who's a jiu-jitsu guy but doesn't understand some of the nuances
some bias
of striking,
there, right?
and what are the art of the clinch, or some things like that. They maybe don't understand who is in the more advantaged position. Exactly. So you can just bring a different flavor to the judging process, and if you have more, I feel like that also allows you to identify who are our outlier judges. Who are your Adelaide Birds of the world who seem to always be the one dissenting judge in a split decision effort. Those people, I feel like, are the ones who we need to identify, and we need to either, one, put more into training them to be better, or if they have a continued, I guess, trend of their performance, then maybe it's time to look at moving on.
Getting them, yeah, I agree. I don't know,
because when they're dealing with it's literally half of your money.
Yeah, it's people's lives. Yeah,
especially in the bigger,
especially in the bigger
right.
Organizations.
Mm-hmm. that has so much riding on the line that I just feel that you guys are held accountable by your performance.
Right.
Why are they not?
Exactly.
That is my long-winded stamp on that whole point there.
Right. No, yeah, and personally I haven't had to deal with it, but as a fan I see it all the time. Sounds cheesy or whatever, but they just say finish the fight, right?
Yeah.
So
it is. And I mean, I get that adage. I mean, that's Dana's favorite saying, don't leave it in the hands of the judges, but sometimes it goes there.
Well, the thing is, if
they're paid to do it.
Right. If they're the best of the best of the best, I think that causes for more chance of it going all the way. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, for me, I've had 6 finishes out of the 7, and then that 7th was just a unanimous. It was a beatdown, so I didn't have to. I personally haven't had to deal with that. Imagine just winning a round, or you thinking you want to fight, and then you just lose. Like, yeah, it's got to be like you said, especially with money. Like that's their. So I don't know. There definitely has to be some sort of, at least a try to it. You know, trial. What it is, I don't know, but I like the 5 judges. I like that.
I like that as an idea too. I'm just gonna reset this real quick, and then we'll roll. Yeah, 5 judges. I mean, five judges, 5, 10, whatever the number it is that you want to call. I just feel like potentially having more. You know, and the objection to that is, well, then there could be too many cooks in the kitchen. So there's always a pro and a con to every different option that you present. But again, how are we gonna know what is potentially going to be something that works or is more beneficial for the sport in its long term if we don't try?
Exactly.
If we don't at least kick the tire on the effort to try to influence some sort of change.
Exactly. Especially it being so like you just never know. Right. So unknown. It's got to be more. This is it, right?
Definitely.
Which it will never be perfect, but at least more, structured.
Exactly.
I don't know. It's tricky.
I
wouldn't want to be a judge.
I got to ask you this question, because it does bring in some policy and officiating and whatnot. Following the Aljo and Piotr Jan fight, what is your thoughts on the way that Aljo handled it?
Are you talking right after or like days?
Both.
So I think he did the right thing as far as immediately. It's hard to say because I didn't.
Let me stop you right there. Do you think that should be his decision to make?
What do you mean, to continue?
To continue. Should that be on him or should that be on the referee? A fighter who just got illegally struck in the head, possibly concussed, rocked, whatever. Should it be on you to make that decision whether you can continue or not?
If you think you can, then I think so. Example, Lionheart, right? He said, let's do it, and he went and did it. So I don't know. It's hard to say because I didn't get kneed in the temple, right? But maybe it goes back to protecting the fighters. I don't know. It's tricky. Yeah. I liked how he was like not down for the bout, but then I seen pictures of him super excited, celebrating, which I don't blame the guy. Yeah. But pick a side. You know what I mean?
That's where I had the biggest issue with him. I personally, I ride with a little bit more of the side with Anthony, just because I'm a little bit more of an old school rough around the edges sort of guy that way, like that, the valor, the honor within it of saying, like, hey, if I'm going to win a world championship, it's not going to be like this sort of thing.
Yeah, I love that, man.
But I also can't blame the guy who says in that sort of situation that, you know what, I can't continue. Then, because that literally, like Alex and I were talking about it, your money is completely different. You're coming into the fight as the champion money. You're marketed as the champion. You're getting all of these.
There's so much pros compared to
exactly. Not. But then there's the flip side.
Your morals, right?
You have to face a lot of criticism and backlash for it. That. It's a little bit of a different criticism than the people who like say, because there were people, especially like Ariel, who criticized Anthony for making the decision that he made to continue.
Right, the other way, right.
But I feel like that's much more palatable if you're the person receiving it, to say like oh, you think that I was dumb for not taking the
free title, right? Yeah.
Then you know what, that's on you. That speaks more to you than it does for me. Sort of thing. And that was his position.
I love that.
But for someone like Aljo, like, hey, I get it, you get it there. But where I take issue is that he then, shortly after, and I'm not even talking the Academy Award-winning worthy performance he put on in the octagon, like, all right, you've been around the game for a minute. Mm-hmm. You've seen a lot of fights. Mm-hmm. Have you, to your recollection, after seeing a guy who's been rocked or knocked out, do you see him act like that? Like just the rolling the eyes around, like the whole
Walking
sort of
like
that sort of thing. Like,
no, I
think he put a little bit of extra mustard on the hot dog.
That was some good, terrible acting.
Yeah. So that's where I kind of had a little bit, like, he tried to sell it a little bit too hard, but hey, whatever. That is what it is. But then it's the after that where you're taking pictures and you're posing with, or
perfect interview.
Yes, again, perfect interview. You throw down the belt and, oh no, I don't want the belt, but then you're asking for the mic, saying, oh yes, give me the microphone. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of guys who are just freshly concussed that way, like it's not
what they're doing.
It's not like, give me the mic and I want to speak, like, and again, like, I'm trying to give Aljo as much respect as possible in this scenario, but he's made it hard for himself.
He has. Did you see his last, I don't know if it was his last post, but the one like the day after?
With Henry Cejudo?
No, or maybe, but the caption, he had a good point. He was just like, well, sorry that I didn't cheat. Right. Which, I mean...
That's the part that I agree with him with.
Right.
But it's then then you put up a post with you facing off with Henry Cejudo saying, you guys saying, let's do this.
Yeah.
Which then that gives off the vibe that you want nothing to do with Jan again, that you're not, that in your head, oh, you're moving on and you don't want to give him that rematch.
He was definitely going to lose that.
He was on his way to, for sure, losing, if not getting finished.
Yes, I agree.
And yeah, like that's where you do feel bad for Jan in that situation, and that he was fighting well. Right. And that a momentary lapse in judgment, and I'm not even gonna go as far to say that was intentional. Like it was like he threw the knee.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking at it, wasn't that when you're looking at the way that the rules are defined, intentional versus incidental. Incidental means that, hey, if you were scrambling right there and in the process of transitioning, you were hit with the knee. Right. Not was your intent upon action or upon firing that muscle.
That's what you wanted to do.
That's what you wanted to do right then and there, was throw that knee. Right. Whether or not it was intentional that you thought that he was still grounded or not, that is irrelevant. Did you intentionally throw a knee in that moment? That is how the rule is defined.
Right.
By that, yes, yeah. It was intentional. Mm-hmm. And I also heard part of the translated interview back from Jan that said, hey, I was only paying attention to his hands, like his hands being up off of the canvas.
Like the 3-point thing or whatever?
Exactly. He said, and it's true, his hands were up and off.
Right.
But
was he coming up?
Kind of in a mid-transition of it, and there was the reports that they said, oh, you could hear his corner saying like yes or like to kick. But on the flip, there was Habib who told DC, and DC spoke about it on his and Ariel's show yesterday, that no, that's not what was said. And it said that it was most likely, there's a word in Russian like yit or something like that, which means like no, which maybe could be interpreted from our ears of hearing like kick or yes or something to that effect.
Right.
Said something that was lost in translation, from another language that got interpreted differently.
Right.
Who knows?
Right.
I mean, it's one of those things that all that shit happens that fast.
Yeah, so fast. You really don't.
Right.
Like you said, even if he did knee him in the head, which he meant to, in the moment, I don't think he meant to do it while he was grounded.
And there was a similar circumstance with this, albeit one of Aljo's teammates. I don't know if you remember back to the Gegard Mousasi and Chris Weidman fight. Very similar situation.
To Weidman, right?
Yeah, Weidman got kneed by Gegard, and it was right around when the different rule sets were kind of coming up of what is down, what is grounded versus not. Is it 4 points contact? Is it 3? All that sort of situation.
Yeah, kind of changing.
And and again, like Chris kind of did another bad acting job in that. All due respect to Chris Weidman, because I'm a Chris Weidman guy. his poster's like right above my head, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, Chris Weidman had a similar situation, and it's kind of
that one was
it's tough when it's two guys from the same team that put on a performance, if you will, like that.
Right.
But I don't know.
Who knows, right? I have personally never gotten kneed like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
I
hard
can't put myself into that position to know that.
But I mean, I've been hit hard enough to where I know like I should not go more, you know. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess the way, if he was gonna do that, he should have just stayed down and made it more like I can't. You know what I mean? But I don't know.
But then again, I feel like that's how we know that it was a little bit of fabrication.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, like
right.
if you were really like kind of knocked out and down and like discombobulated, the thought process or the natural thought is that based off of what we know from how other fighters have reacted to being knocked out, concussed, so on and so forth.
Right.
If we're looking at the two examples side by side, you have some very contrasting differences.
Yeah. And I mean, for his own career, I mean, he did the right thing, right? Like you said, so it's hard. That's tough. I had Jan winning easily that round, but yeah, that's crazy. I don't know.
I know that definitely killed a lot of people's parlays or their bets that they had going at the sports books.
Yes, because, mine included.
Yours included. Okay. Well, it did help me because I had picked Aljo.
You had Aljo?
I picked Aljo, and I was like, oh man, like it's even tough sometimes on
that
on
even
the
won
beat.
that.
Like it's just like, man, like
did you hit anything?
That's a bad beat.
I love parlays, man. I love betting.
No, parlays I got thrown up because I had Izzy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had Israel, so
right.
those all kind of tanked off on that. But Austin Jones actually had like an 8-leg parlay that the only one that he missed was the Jan Aljo fight.
Oh, wow.
He had Jan in it.
And he hit everything else?
He hit everything else. Austin is a guy who does not get like pissed.
He's mad.
Very often.
I'd be mad.
He was livid the other day. It was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is literally like hundreds that I've lost out on. Like, you know, it's not that I lost hundreds, right. Obviously. I lost whatever my wager was on right. the parlay, but the potential of that winnings, you know, I lost that, you know, like $600-700, whatever it was, based on the odds.
Fighting so hard, because like you said, any second.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I like the NFL and the NBA ones because you can kind of gauge whatever, but fighting so hard, I just be picking stuff, putting no emotion to it.
What you don't know? Did that person have a bad weight cut? You know, like did that person have, you know, I guess just little stuff that was going on fight week that took some energy away? Right. Did they have too many people around them that were energy vampires throughout the week and then they come out flat? There's so many different things that factor in for fighting. Whereas with team sports, like you mentioned, I agree. I do believe that it's a lot more formulaic in terms of ways that you can win money.
Yeah,
you know,
if you have a strategy, right?
Exactly. If you have a strategy or if you have a couple of cappers that you follow, that those all go off of pretty much they have a baseline algorithm or equation that they use to figure out, okay, where do I find value within these bets?
Right.
You can exploit the value within team sports bets a lot more easily
compared
than
to
you can with combat sports and individual sports in general.
Right.
You know, like if you have, you know, like the Buccaneers, well, you know what? If Leonard Fournette gets hurt, well, they've got another running back.
Right.
So you don't got to worry about like, okay, he gets a sprained ankle. Well, this guy that you have a fighter who kind of rolls his ankle in the first minute of the first round. You're
he has to fight still.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know. It's just differences between the sports along those lines.
Right. So fun to bet though.
Oh yeah, it's one of those things that it's I feel like a healthy thing, like in a way for those that want to learn more nuances. Don't get crazy with don't go betting your rent or any of that sort of stuff. But looking through, like I personally through some stuff, I pay attention to more details myself. Right. Because I'll look and I'll see, like say in fighting, for example, like, all right, well, the odds makers think that this fight, or they're placing the over-under at 1.5 rounds.
Right.
So that means that the odds makers think that this is going to be a high-paced fight, that they think that there's going to be a significant chance that this fight could end early. Just some of those little things, I guess. Like, and then on the flip side, with team sports, like say they look at it and we're putting the over/under for carries today for Philip Lindsay at 3.5 against the Chiefs or something.
Right.
That means that they think that Denver's not going to be able to run it. They're going to have to be airing it out a little bit more. And
then you just approach it that way.
Those Vegas casinos and all these sports books have not built these multi-billion-dollar empires from being wrong and from losing. Do we get lucky as bettors here and there?
Right.
Yes. But by and large, they are not far off with some of these things.
Right. They put those for a reason.
Right.
Whatever, under whatever, right? Over under.
Just to add a little quick story with the over unders, I was watching a card one time with Chris Camozzi. Was Chris around before you came?
No, but I know who he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So me and Chris were watching a card, and we were just looking at all the over-unders, and for like the fourth
for
fight,
rounds, you're saying?
Yeah, as far as what they were calling for, or where did they think that this fight was going to end? Like, was this going to end in under 2.5 minutes going into the third round, or wherever in that? Nearly every single one that we watched and followed the line of where they placed, where they thought the action was within like a small deviation from where that point was. Like there were two of them that were, I think one of them might have been a TJ Brown fight, but I could be wrong. But it was literally like they called it that it was supposed to, or the over-under line was placed at 2 minutes and 30 seconds in the second round, and the fight ended at like there was 2 minutes and 38 seconds or something like that. So it was just below the threshold.
They know their shit.
They're very good at what they do once they're at that level, Right. So it's crazy.
Yeah, I've always been interested in like how they do the who calculates all that, but obviously they have their data.
There's a lot of stuff that goes.
And then now with like computers, I'm sure they have AIs and algorithms, and they have all that good stuff to make it even easier for them.
It is. It's tough. We had a professional handicapper. I'm pretty sure that's what his correct title is in that way. With one of the publications or the media outlets that cover sports betting, we had him on the radio show a few weeks ago. And he just kind of talked about what some of the things that go into it. Now that's where I feel like it also brings an interesting element of it. It's just like with any other sport. There's the sabermetrics end of it, which is all the stats on paper. That's all the numbers, everything that you can read off of basically a spreadsheet and figure out some sort of equation to. And then there's the eye test. There's the eye test, and then what you're able to see and visually process.
Right.
And the sport that I grew up in with a large background was baseball. Baseball is you either have your big time stats guys, or you have your feel guys, like your old school feel. And just like there was a movie that actually talked about this. I don't know if you ever saw the Clint Eastwood movie Trouble with a Curve. It was a big movie a few years back. Justin Timberlake was one of the big stars in the movie, along with Clint Eastwood. But essentially, it was a guy who he was an old scout who was basically getting phased out from the organization in favor of some of the newer, younger scouts.
Okay.
Who the newer, younger guys did a lot of their scouting based off of the numbers. What does this guy's numbers on a stat sheet look like?
Right.
And they had picked this big hot prospect, whatever, and then the old guy finds this other hidden gem, and the way that he found him was he heard him, like he could hear the pop of the leather when this guy was throwing. Like he could just hear it, like his perception of it was there. So there's a big difference of that sort of thing that you may not see it on paper. Like a guy like a Derek Lewis is almost a perfect example. By all accounts, Derek Lewis should lose so many of the fights that he's been in.
I've had him, yeah.
But he has that one equalizer that you say, like, what? This guy doesn't really have a great ground game. His wrestling, it's gotten better to stuff takedowns, but he can be taken down. He can be kind of manipulated for position at times, or he can be outpaced and outworked.
Right.
Especially by all things that are on paper. I mean, look at the Volkov fight. But you leave 1 second of opportunity.
That's all you need, right?
that's the ultimate equalizer in fighting. So it's tough. That's where I have a hard time sometimes with all these guys that are just so heavy on the stats. I believe that there's value and that there's definitely stuff that you can take away from it to gain for your own insight and your own analysis. But to live and die by just the numbers, I don't think you can do that.
I agree.
Especially in fighting.
I agree. Especially watching it, like you said, in person or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
And then there's also, I feel like, in fighting versus a lot of other sports, there's one thing that you can never put on paper, and you can never measure heart.
Right.
You can never put that on paper, and that you may have a guy who has all the tools, all the skills in the world, but then a guy like that who comes to mind is someone like a Dustin Poirier. A guy who has experienced failure on a mass level, against Conor, say like in the first fight, gets beat by Khabib, but that man's heart to stay resilient through all of these years. Anthony Lionheart-Smith being another example of someone you can't measure a man's heart.
Right, that'll take you far.
Exactly. Exactly.
Did you ever watch Dustin's? He had I don't know if it was like a documentary about on Netflix. It's good stuff about like his past because he was like in juvenile jail. Interesting story. You should check it out.
I definitely need to check that out then, because I'm a big Dustin guy.
Yeah, this is like, I don't know, 8 years ago I seen this.
Okay.
And I was just like, this guy's got something, and what you're saying is the heart, and you can see it in the documentary. Like stuff he does is just not like.
The most underrated move of Dustin Poirier's career was him getting his stomach tattoo removed.
Oh yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, like it just like almost like like playground sort of script in
right.
a way. Like you could tell somebody like in the old bayou like just did it off of their back porch.
Yeah,
it said like one thug across his stomach. Yeah, something along those lines.
That's funny.
Yeah,
I seen a picture. I was like, since when did he have and he looked young.
Yeah, super young. I'm pretty sure he still had it through the first Conor fight.
Okay.
But then it was not long after that he got that removed.
That's funny.
But yeah, probably a very, very good choice for his career, long term. So,
right.
For those of you who haven't seen it, that may be a little bit of roast material that you can pull up at some point. But yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, he's no longer a guy that is brought up on any of the compilations of the those like worst tattoos and MMA sort of things, because there's some bad ones out there.
Oh yes,
there's also some really
good ones.
Like we
Cub
saw
Swanson.
this last weekend. Cub Swanson was a great one, but like Sean Brady.
Oh, the back tattoo.
Yeah, the back tattoo that Sean Brady has. That's art.
I like that.
That's flat out art. Or like Volkov's back piece. Like that's beautiful art.
Right.
And then you get Darren Elkins with the damage that looks like someone carved it with a screwdriver on his chest. Knowing him, probably not far off.
Well, even the guys with the good tattoos have those really shitty ones.
Yeah. Well, some of them you could tell, like, okay, he got this once he had money.
Right.
Like this is a newer
transition.
one. Yep. Well, Dustin himself especially. Like Dustin had kind of the sleeve that was, there was some parts of it that were good, but you could tell that there were some of it that were very, budgetly done in a way. Like not to disrespect them by any means. But they were just, they weren't high quality work.
Yeah, you get what you pay for.
But now he got money.
So he's looking good.
And now he's got some clean work.
Tattoos looking good, yeah.
Exactly. So just to kind of tie some things up here, my man, we've covered a lot of topics, talked through your background with fighting, your approach, your stylistic comparisons. Is there something that we haven't covered yet that you would like to get out there to your friends, family, teammates, coaches, anybody?
I don't have nothing off the top of my head. Just want to go out and perform for you guys. My team, I want to shout out for my team. That's what I'm looking forward to most. Because in here, like everybody's just so effing good that it's hard to even like quote unquote show out. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to be put against somebody else who wants to take my head off, and I'm looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, man, that's awesome. And real quick again, where can people follow you?
At Team Kanakoqui, and it's Team Kanakoqui.
Awesome. And what is the details for your fight?
March 27th, Cheyenne, Wyoming for SCL.
How can people watch?
You can go in person. It's about an hour drive, hour and a half, or you can buy a pay-per-view. I want to say it's Sparta SE where you could find that. If not, you can go to my page and I have it on there. But yeah, I would love for everybody to watch.
Do you have a code for purchases?
Yeah, so it's my name and then a K. So Jorge K. Okay. In the coupon code. But yeah.
Got to handle all the business
I know, man.
side of things, bro.
Gotta get
Yep. Any sponsors that you want to shout out?
Just my team, Factory X, Landau. That's it. We're gonna get some lined up, but this was just so out of the blue. I didn't really get into just so focused in training. I didn't get my spot. I actually have my my regular guys I haven't talked to, so I need to do that.
Yeah, well, gotta handle the business element,
right, man. You
man.
gotta get paid a little bit.
Yep, exactly. You've been paying your dues in here. Time to you to get paid a little bit with some dues.
Yeah, man. It's funny, the LFA fight. I was on that card, the poster right there, and it was my first time getting a check. It was just so like it's nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Granted, it was ticket sales, but just like the check being there, it's like, hey, I got paid to choke somebody out. Like this is, I could get used to this.
It just has to be a little bit of a different feel. Like, oh man, like I actually got something for this.
Yeah.
Like it's probably like a rush of dopamine to a certain extent.
Yeah, it's like if this could just be it and not work, that'd be cool.
Hell yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at, man. I'm working so much, and then training when I can, and having babies, and
Yep. That's a balancing act that you're going through, my friend.
Yes, I kudos to everybody who has kids and fights, because it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure it has to affect everything that people don't even realize, like your recovery. Just something as simple as that, Like maybe not getting as much sleep, or maybe like you would have liked to have just kind of sat there and chilled for a little bit, but you got to go be dad.
Yes.
You got to go play in the yard for a little bit. Or
yeah, especially you like Tuesdays wrestling, like one of the hardest practices, whatever, and then you do some jiu-jitsu. Yeah, you want to go home and take a nap. Can't do that with your newborn, and I have a 1-year-old too. So
congratulations.
Thank you, man. I got my hands full, and it makes it all worth it though. So it's not like it is physically draining, but emotionally they make me so like
fulfilled.
Yeah, exactly, fulfilled, and gives me energy to train as hard as we do. But yeah, man, thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking forward to the post talks we're gonna have about how good the fight went.
Hell yeah, my man.
How good Gino looked, and Oscar, Big Nerm.
Oh my god, I can't wait to let that freak off of the leash.
Dude. Do they even have gloves for his big old hands?
Bro, I don't even know. Like
the other day he gave me a knuckle. I was just like, dude.
Yeah. Enormous. Massive. Like he posted that picture on Instagram the other day where he just like shreds city. Like, bro, you are 6'5", 250 some pounds, and you are yoked.
I do not want to fight him.
No. No. That is a man that in past years was riding on a horseback wielding a giant sword and taking heads off as he's coming over the hills.
Right.
Like that is a man whose body is built to do damage.
Past life.
Yes.
That's going to be fun. That's another thing I was thinking about. Me and Oscar have fought in previous cards together. It's always nice having that the person, a teammate to go to war with. Mm-hmm. And I think we have 4, right?
Yep.
So it's gonna be awesome. I've had it to where it's just you. It's kind of weird. It's like lonely almost. But yeah, I'm excited for this. Whole team's gonna be there. I don't know the lineup, but I would like to go soon. You know what I mean?
Earlier on in the lineup of the card.
Yeah.
Earlier on in the show.
I enjoy that. I don't know why. Obviously, you want to be the main event, but I just want to just fight. So.
I get it. I'm sure to a certain extent it's like, okay, like, there's, I don't care what anybody says, there's nerves.
Yes.
And so it's like, hey, like, let's just get through this shit, and then we can rejoice after.
Right.
I totally understand on
right.
that side.
Maybe that's what it is. I just want to get it done, Yeah. And it's, those nerves, man, that you're talking about, it's hard to control it. But you learn along the process in the fights. This will be my 10th fight. But I haven't fought since November 2019, so I don't know if that's going to play a factor.
I mean, it may have a...
Technically, we fight here every Friday, so...
I feel like that's one thing that is different here as opposed to maybe... And it's not as opposed to all other camps, but a fairly significant amount out there. There's a lot of camp-to-camp fighters.
Right.
So if you're somebody who is always training, and yeah, does your training ramp up a little bit more when you're in camp here? But technically, Factory X fighters are in camp year round.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You're training all year round. There's no, like, okay, well,
there's no easy days.
Right, and just like how you said there, you haven't fought for, a little over a year. Mm-hmm. Well, there's some guys that in between fights, like until you get that next fight, they're back to working. They're living their regular life, and okay, I got another fight booked, and all right, now it's time to get back in the gym. And then those are the guys who sometimes, like you mentioned that you were able to take a short notice opportunity, but those are the guys who then like, okay, I need for sure at least 8 weeks to potentially 12 because I need to have almost a mini camp to get myself into shape to go through the rigors of actual camp.
Right.
Because you know as well as anybody, if you haven't done anything for a few weeks, even much less months, that first 2 weeks back in the gym are brutal, which then are going to have an impact on weeks 3 and 4.
Exactly.
And then you finally start to rebound and come back out of it in week 5 to 6, and you start to get that stride week 6. Then here, 7, you start to feel like, all right, like I'm actually
ready
feeling
to
it.
Fight.
But then if you're only, like say a short note, well then that's your entire camp, or you didn't even get to like go through a couple of weeks of feeling good before then, usually then those last couple of weeks of camp you're starting to feel back to being broke down or run down just because you've put in all of that work. You've barely gotten yourself to the point to where you can start to put that level of work in.
Right.
So yeah,
it's tricky.
It's tough, man.
With short notices too, but like you said, I wouldn't even consider it short. I think we got like a month, so that's good enough for me.
Hey, good enough for me. Like, but even at that, there's a lot of fighters who won't take a fight on a month notice.
Man, I'll fight on a day's notice. I think that makes it even better for myself, like my nerves and stuff.
Yeah.
I think knowing I'm going to fight somebody in July makes it more day in and day out. You're thinking about this person or this day, this fight or whatever. So I don't know. Everybody's a little different.
For sure.
I feel good though. So.
Awesome, my man. Well, thank you all so much for joining us along. This is the Comments from the Peanut Gallery. I am Jordan Kurtz. Check me out on the MMA Plug, sponsored by DenverSportsBetting.com, on Mile High Sports Radio, as well as 98.1 FM Wednesday evenings from 7 to 8 p.m. Mountain Time.
Good stuff, man. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you.